Welcome to our Smart Annotation presentation. So we're going to show you a little bit about our new capability that's an add-on to IronCAD that once you purchase the add-on, you can enable it under our Tools options, and you'll see a new option down here that says Enable Smart Annotation. So you have to have the license first, and once you have that, this will be enabled. You can select that to activate the license capability. I'll show you a little bit more about technically how to set this up in this presentation, but let's start off to why we're adding this. So for example, if we have this model, IronCAD in your typical design process, you may want to create drawings for this. There's multiple ways of doing that. For example, we could run the bulk view creation and create some cheats and start adding annotations, or you can just basically select a model. For example, we'll take the assembly and we want to create a new drawing from this assembly. We'll create a new drawing and we'll just go through some of the standard processes here. We'll just do an ISO. Let's do the A3 assembly inside of here, and we'll get our drawing views and say we want a right view, a top view, an isometric. We'll go ahead and place that. So this is kind of your day-to-day process. You would go inside of here, do however you would like to set this up, and then you would have to go and manually annotate this, or you can take advantage of the bulk view creation process and turn on certain things today in IronCAD. So if you wanted to have some annotations on the left-hand side and maybe on the bottom side for this, we can add those annotations. We can transfer dimensions inside of there, and then you can manually add some things. But you know, like if you wanted to go ahead and add an annotation like an ordinate dimension, you can go into your dimension tools under annotations and say we want to do an ordinate dimension. We come in here and say, well, we want to add a origin somewhere along here. Kind of hard to pick these points, but I'll just pick up here as my origin location, and then I can simply pick where I want my placements, or maybe I want one up here, tell me where that end piece is, and manually go through this process. So there's some time it takes to build or annotate your models inside of here, and then you have to go through and figure out how to readjust your dimensions to account for these things like that. So that's your sheet drawing. Then you can go, or sorry, this is your assembly drawing. So now if you wanted to go back and do a part drawing, for example, maybe wanted to do a part drawing for this guy, we can go in here and create a new sheet for that guy. We can select a existing drawing now. So this is very handy that we can do this, and we can select this part file that we want to create. And again, just kind of repeat through this process. Okay. Inside of here, so this is the one we want to use, and we're going to create, again, we'll create those same sort of views inside of here. To place this, maybe make it a little bit smaller. Again, this is a good way to do this. So IronCAD, again, has provided some capabilities to make it easier for you to annotate your drawings, like I mentioned earlier, the view-based dimensions, but you can also go in and add things like auto dimensions. So if we wanted to put our origin up here for our ordinate dimension, we would first have to go and create an intersection point, because we don't have a point out here, so we'll create that first, and then we'll go in and do a auto dimension tool. And we actually provided some new capabilities to make this even better. I'll show you, for example. So previously you would have, we want one horizontal above and on the left. I pick my point, I hit OK, and you can see it would go through and generate basically every single point that's available on the drawing, which is not really useful in any real design scenario. You can't really use these dimensions, and it's overkill for dimensioning or annotating this. It doesn't really provide the user much benefit in that. So a lot of people don't use that tool. We did make improvements for this, so you can get a little bit more selective, and you can continue to improve this by, we've seen it in other systems like density settings on how many you want to show, for example. In this case, I'm just going to ignore some of these smooth lines here in this case, and do the same dimension set. Pick my origin, but basically you can refine this to get less and less. So again, you're going to pick up a lot of points. You're going to pick up all these little notches down here, but notice we now excluded all these smooth curves here, so we're not picking up those. We're not picking up the points here at the end of those. So it's a little bit more reasonable, and the user can still work with this. So this is some enhancements to IronCAD just in general for auto dimensioning, but it's still not a precision control system. So that's what auto dimensions can't really get you that. So you can have density to turn some of these on and off, but you may not get exactly what you want. You still have to go and annotate it. So what we're showing, or what we're adding to the system, is this smart annotation capability. So let's go back to our model. So in this model, I've already added some annotations to this, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So there's annotations that we added at the assembly level. So when it gets into an assembly drawing, it knows how to annotate itself. And there's some down at the part level. So if I go down to this particular part, you can see different some annotations or attachment points here that are going to be used for that annotations. So the way these are controlled are by name. So you can set up different names, you can set up rules for these, and I'll show you an example or how those are done in a second, but let's show you what the actual benefit for this is. So this capability, and when you use these, allows you to create drawings with precision control on what you want to see for your designs, whether they're parametric models, and you can combine this with various tools of IronCAD, whether it's the bulk view creation, our common components. It can all leverage this capability, so it extends onto what some of the core things of IronCAD, but even makes it more powerful. So for example, in this case, we're going to run the bulk view creation on this model, and I'm going to go ahead and just pick a template. And some of the key things, since in bulk view creation, you want to set up your templates to take advantage of these new smart annotations. So I've already created two here, so we'll go ahead and use our assembly one for our main level one. And if you scroll down here, you'll see I already have one that's already defined. That's going to pick up that part file. It's already selected, and it's already going to use that part template. And I'm going to tell it to go ahead and use that main scene for the assembly, and we're going to go ahead and hit OK. So this gives us a very powerful way to control all of our annotations. You'll see automatically that this thing is detailed to what I want it to be dimensioned to. For example, it called out, all the way down to my bottom point here. I've got all these references that I need. I don't need these arcs up here or anything like that. I get those annotations for my drawing automatically. And I can also get annotations in here for, all right, I didn't mean to move that, but I get this annotation here for my hole. This is actually using a combination of not just the smart annotations based on attachment points. I'm also using the bulk view creation auto dimensioning tool to call out holes, for example, in this case. So called out these holes here and set quantity for myself automatically. So now I just had to do very little things. So for example, if I need to move this out, I can just hold my control key and move that out to get that to where I wanted, and move these out. So I flip that arrow there on that guy, and I'm pretty much done with that part drawing. So I have it set up how I want it to be created, created all the annotations that I need for that particular drawing. And this is just an example, it may not be fully correct, but this is just an example of how quick you can get to what you're really wanting to find out. Not every single point, but very specified or very precise control on that. You can go back to our assembly drawing, same thing. So in this case, even though I have that part file in here, it's not going to throw all those annotations on there. I can control that. So I can also control how these annotations get displayed on here. So for example, there's a different set of annotations for the horizontal line. So it's showing you my horizontal line for my basically these points, my plates, where they're located and these locations. So I can get that specific information. I know my overall view. I'm also transferring an automatic call out for this. So this call out is pulled from a catalog, and actually there's no text here, it's just a part property text. So if you edit this, for example, go ahead and edit that, you'll see that this is just pulling a part property, which is a custom part property inside of there. So it pulls that annotation in automatically, places it where my attachment point designator location is, and populates it with the proper information. So I can get that automatically. So I can do that for various things. I can have many of those out there in combination with our annotations for the drawing. And this one's a different set for the vertical, so I know I have a vertical set here, a horizontal set that gives me different information, and to really control that. And I'm setting this all up in my templates. So this is a very powerful way to use smart annotations. And again, it's all based on setting up your templates to use this. So you can build these manually after the fact, or you can just set your templates for the bulk view creation, and I'm enabling some custom property text, my attachment points in this case, to be used on this drawing. And then you can see on every drawing I have control, individual control. For example, I don't want any annotations on this one. I can turn off those same settings for enable custom property mapping or enable attachment point annotations. I can turn them off so I don't have any annotations showing up in these. And then I can control even down to the granular level for each particular view. I can tell what I want to see. So for example, in this dimensions, this particular view, I only want to see the vertical dimensions. I don't want to see any other ones, so I can specify by name which ones I want to show in there. So that one's got my vertical ones, and I look in this one, I have a different set. So this one will allow me to show both my dimensions for my horizontal, which I call dimension A for assembly, and I have a CT, which is this my call out information. So that will show up in this view particularly, not in the other view. So it's only just one view that I wanted to see. So that's a very powerful way to control this. So once you set your templates up for various your part designs, whether you're doing sheet metal flat drawings, you're doing plate parts, you're doing different type of fabricated or manufactured parts, you can set up your drawings and your assembly drawings very specifically on how you want things to be laid out, and then you save your templates. You now use your process in your 3D to build these annotations. You can reuse this in a very quick way to get yourself pretty close to a manufacturable drawing. So for example, let's go ahead and close this one. And I'm going to show you exactly kind of how we can do this, or how we can set this on this part. So this one, again, there's various annotations in here, and I have some origins down here. So you can see there's actually two origins that I've got sitting here. One is called dim A, and one's called dim vertical, dim A vertical. And you'll see these other information here. This is kind of defining how and where those annotations get placed. And then you have these other dimensions. If I look at those, these are just called dim a vert, for example. I don't have the rest of that information because this is just the reference location. So let's show you how to do this. So let me go ahead and create a new catalog. And I'm going to create some of these inside of here. And I'm going to drag this one over here. This is my, if I look at that, that's my dim a value. And I'm going to go ahead and drag one of these dim a origins as well. I'm just right clicking and dragging these in here. So this is my origin, and this one is, notice it doesn't have that rest of information. That's just my one I'm going to reuse. And I have the same thing for my part one. So let's go to the part level here, and I'm going to grab that origin. I'm going to drag that one into the catalog, and then I'm going to grab one of these reference ones. So these were called a little bit different. This is called dim inside of here. So let's go ahead and go and create a new part and show you how to use this. And I'll show you how to use that vertical one as well. So let's go ahead and just drag that one in there as well. So I'm just going to drag the reference and I'll create this one and show you how it's done. So let's create a new scene inside of here, and we'll go ahead and just do a new scene. And we'll just set this to millimeters because I have my templates in millimeters inside of here. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag out a block out here. And I'm going to size this a little bit bigger, maybe, and maybe a little bit taller inside of there. And then I can create some other ones on this as well. So let's just, since we're going to reuse this one, let's just take this one, put it in the catalog. So we'll go back to our catalog I have here. So I'll stick this in here so that I can drag it, drop it out here, and drop it again. So I'm going to create 3 pieces here. And I'm just going to move these out. So I'm going to give me some location points to dimension to inside of here. And I'll move this one out a little bit further, and maybe over there somewhere, something like that. And I'll color these different. So let's just say this one is going to be, let's scroll down here. There we go. We'll set that one to maybe blue or grayish. Yeah, it's fine. I didn't pick that right. And we'll set that one to blue inside of there. And on this one up here, let's make another modification to it. I'm just going to add a hole to it, and let's make it a little bit smaller inside of there, something like that. I'll use my tribal, and I'll make a couple links here. So let's just make a link, and we'll make one in the other direction. Okay, so now we have this part. So we want to annotate this. I'm going to make this an assembly. So let's go ahead and select that and make that assembly. So I want to have 2 sets of annotations. I want to have my annotations for my assembly level, and then I want to have one for this part up here at the top because it's slightly different. So I'll go back to my catalog. So the first one we had was our dim a. This is my origin that I'm setting for my assembly level. So I'm going to select on my assembly, and I'm going to put this down here at, this is my origin location. Now I can use my other one, which is my dim a reference here, to call out which points I want to call out. So I say I want to know if this is going to be my horizontal, for example. I want to know where that location is. I want to know the overall length of this part, for example. I might want to know that, and I'll just kind of repeat dropping this out where I need particular points, and maybe I'll get my overall there. So that's my origin for my horizontal. So I'm going to do one for my vertical as well. I want to do the same thing in this case. So I want to know if my origin is going to be down here, I want to have one that's here, here, and here. So let's go ahead and just use our vertical dimension, which is this one, and I'm going to set that one. Well, I guess we put it there or here, it doesn't really matter. I'll put one there, I'll put one there, and oops, sorry, I put that on the part level. Let's get rid of that, sorry. Oh, my part level, there we go. Put those on the wrong level, so that's one thing you do need to know about what level you're at. Control, there we go. I want to be on my assembly level for these, so my vertical one, I want to put the one there, I'll put one there, and I'll put one there. And I need one for my origin location down here. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to take this one, and I'll just drag another one out here just to show you here. So I'm going to move it right here for now. And if you go into the dimensions or annotations, so how these work, or these attachment points, is you can use our standard tools, attachment point, create an attachment point and place it somewhere. But to create the origin, you would go into the name. You can give it any name you want up here. This really doesn't matter for the driver. That's just your standard attachment point names. But really what it matters is down here. So again, you have to have your license enabled, and you have to have that option turned on. But when you go down to this dimension group, you'll see that's the name that we're referring to in here. So this is a dim a vert. So if I hit modify, it'll tell me, in this case, there are no settings for this. Do you want to create an origin? Okay, if it has that other information on there, that means there is an origin already being in use. So in this case, we're going to say yes, we're going to set that. So in our case, we want to look at the vertical options. In this one, we want to put a vertical, I believe it's vertical left on this one, and we're going to put it in the lower left-hand corner on this thing. So we'll put it in the lower hand corner and on the left-hand alignment, or we can turn on the right side, whichever alignment we want. We can adjust those. You can choose what you want. You can have a baseline, you can have a chain, you can have ordinate. So we're going to use ordinate in this case. And there's some other options here to control. For example, if you have a common set, you may not want, if you have like an overall dimension in your view, you may not want to have one on your last ordinate. So like if I had one sitting over here, I may not want to show that if I have an overall dimension there. So I can turn that use last dimension on. I can also ignore ones if I have like pattern elements. I may ignore a couple extra ones if I need to. So that's giving you some additional power and control. So this is kind of basically the basis for this. When we set that, you'll see now that one becomes with this information. And to access it again, you would just come back down here, you'll select that, and now if you modify it, it says would you like to edit it, not create it. So it knows it's already there, and you can modify those after the fact. So now that I got my origin located here, so let's go ahead and push it down. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to move it down to the bottom. Okay, so that's my assembly level. Now I want to go to my part level here, and I'm going to select down to my part level, and I'm going to do a hide all so I can see this. There we go. And I'm going to select my part here. In this case, I want to add some new annotations for this. So this one we're going to start at the top and move our annotations this way. So this one, again, this is our part one. So this is called our dim. So this is what I'm going to use for my dim origin. I'm going to place it there. So that'll give me my X, Y, and now I can place my points. Now, again, you can place, in this case, I only need to place one here. To get the overall size if I want to know the overall size, or I can use the view dimensions, whichever. But I also can place them on feature levels. In this case, these are linked ones. It'll apply to all of those. So if I drop one right here in the center, notice if I select off, come down to the other feature, you'll see now there's an attachment point there as well. So it's quick and easy to use that. The nice thing about these attachment points is if you have patterns. So if you have a pattern, then another one comes in or removes, your Smart Annotations will update. That's one thing the Auto Dimension tool cannot do because it has to recreate it from scratch, and it just does what's visible at the time. This one will allow you to add and remove pattern elements, so it's a very powerful tool in that nature. So let's go back to our full view, and now we've got everything detailed on our part level. Go back to our part here. So we got our part level annotations, we got our assembly level annotations. One thing else you might want to do, this is just general bulk view creations. You don't necessarily need to do this, but I usually do that for most of my stuff. So for part level, you know, I always kind of use front view definition, so I know I'm going to get the right view for my drawing. I can also apply that at the assembly level as well, just to make sure that I'm going to get my correct orientations for my view. So now that I've got this here, let's go ahead and save this. And we'll save this as test new here, and we'll save that. And now that we've got this ready, we can run our bulk view creation process. So again, in this case, we'll run our bulk view creation. We select our template for our assembly level, which is going to be that same template that I had before. And then I'm going to pick my part level that I want my blue one here, and I'm going to set that one to the part level and hit OK. And again, we want to use that main scene for that first one, and we're going to hit OK. So now this will run through, and again, give us a similar thing that we did for our bigger file, but I can use this anytime. So once I have my attachment points that I commonly use, I stick them in a catalog, then I can reuse and build whenever I need. So notice this is my part file. It uses the same information. I had a dimension that would call out here and here for my overall, and this one calls out my plate. So this would be a good plate drawing type annotation. So it figures out all my points that I need. Here's my origin, here's my locations there. This one's pretty much detailed, ready to go. And also for my overall view dimension, again, similar thing. So this placed out all those points that I wanted to know, where they were located, where these origin locations are for all these hinges. So I know how big this block is, I know how big are these placement locations, I know how big these are overall, I know the height. And the same thing for this one, I know the height because I put my vertical ones on this one, so it knows how to place those. It didn't place any of these other annotations on here. And then again, if I need to modify anything, for example, this one, I can move it out inside of here. I can align things, I can flip things around, and just like small modifications here. So if I control flip that, I can get my annotation updated inside of here quickly and easily. So this is a very handy tool to allow you to speed up your whole detailing process, especially if you combine it with the bulk view creation. This will spit out your drawings, spit out your annotations, and again, it's really down to that precision control. So yes, you can speed things up with our current bulk view creations, transfer dimensions, the overall view dimensions. You can the auto dimension tool, you can get a lot of stuff. And it's pretty powerful in that nature in IronCAD. People are using it today and really seeing great success with it. This just adds a whole new level to it, where you can actually add that precision where you want the dimensions to be and how you want them to apply to your templates and when and where. So this is great for a lot of your fabrication drawings, your plate parts. This would be a very powerful and useful tool for this. It can also work for just even your machine components. So if you know you're going to build standard machine components, you have them certain layouts that you need to have certain callouts on, you can set these up. So again, this is a very powerful way to do that. And again, it's just all a matter of setting up your templates with the correct options here and setting up your attachment points to take advantage of this. Again, the other one I didn't show you. So if we wanted to use the attachment points for a callout, I'll show you how to create that one from scratch as well. So let's go ahead and show you that. So we'll create a new attachment point. I'm going to stick it on this corner here on our part level. Actually, we want this on the assembly level. So let's go ahead and put that on the assembly level. There we go. And we'll delete that. Put one here on the assembly level on the top right. And what we're going to do is go into the names, and we're going to go ahead and go down to our ICD catalog item in this case. So this one's a little bit different, and I'm going to call it CT, and we're going to hit add. So that's all it takes for those. So that's the name that it's looking for in the catalog. You have to have an open catalog in the drawing that has that that component name CT. So that's what it's looking for in the drawing to call that. So in my particular case, it's actually pulling custom properties off of the assembly. So I'm going to use a new custom property. I'm also going to name it CT. It doesn't have to be CT, it can be anything else, anything you want in this case, but I'm just going to call something here and say this is a test, for example. And we'll add that. Okay, just to show you the driver. Now if we go back to our drawing here, and remember on my assembly level drawing, it's looking for that CT annotation. It went and grabbed this one called CT in any one of these open catalogs. So I have, I don't know, 15, 10 catalogs open inside of there. As long as one of those has that name element in there, it's going to find the first one that has that name, pulls it into that attachment point location. In this case, it's always with a text with leader right now, but it'll pull those text with leaders in there. And again, this is pulling properties. So in our case, I pulled a custom property where I said this is a test. So again, so you can be very precise on what you need on your drawings and what you want to pull inside of there. That could be a quantity tag. It could be also other things that you want to point to. So it's a very nice tool, and I hope you guys see the power of this and take advantage of it going forward. This is just kind of an overall view of the Smart Annotations that's added in 2027. Again, this is an add-on, a product that can be purchased onto IronCAD, and it's a yearly license because it does add this value to help speed up drawings for companies in their day-to-day process. So this is a yearly license that'll be add-on to IronCAD. Thanks.